Welcome to our web development class. Media queries are the heart and soul of responsive design. Alright, a media query is essentially a CSS3 directive. Alright, it is some code that determines the capability of the device, such as the device width, and that's primarily what we will be concerned with. And based on whether that capability exists, it will direct the browser to the styles that are specifically configured for those capabilities so that we can tailor our presentation and functionality to those devices. So a media query allows us to direct styles for the different devices, and this is essentially how we create a responsive web layout. So this is the one syntax of a media query. Notice we are inside the opening and closing style elements, which are inside our head section. This is the @media directive. Now, the word only is optional, but it will exclude older browsers. So for example, who are we talking about? IE8 and under. If the minute they hit, they read only, they will stop no further. They will understand screen, but then they won't understand max width, which could cause a problem. So you generally see developers putting only in there. Alright, only screen. This is for the screen, it's not for the printer. And inside the parentheses are our capabilities that we're testing for. And here I'm going to use max width as an example, set to 480 pixels. So we have the @media directives, and then we have the delimiters, the opening and closing left-hand curly braces. Everything inside these delimiters, these are the rules that will be our CSS rules that will be executed based on these conditions. So you want to look at this condition as a true-false thing. If the condition is true, then the styles inside the delimiters will be executed. Now, we can have other default styles for everybody, but these are specific for this device capability here. Alright, now notice one thing about max width, saying it has the possibility of a maximum width of 480, meaning it would scale down. It would mean anything 480 and underneath. So what you will be doing, you would probably have an outer container that is probably set to 960 for the desktop, and you would set it to 100%. You know, we don't set to 480 or 320 or any small pixel. We just set it to 100 because on a small device, we want it to fill up 100% of our screen. It's only for the desktops that we start using a fixed width. Minimum width is a little bit different. It scales up, meaning that at 480 pixels and above, these styles will take precedence. Now that would mean 1900 monitor resolution. That would work also. However, you would have another media query that would target something a little bit higher. And these are called breakpoints. So what developers do, and we'll see this in the next video, we set up these breakpoints, the points in which our layout changes based on the media query, and we have our style set there. Alright, two other ways of including a media query. You can include them as an external style sheet, and you can also include them in the style element with the @import directive, just like we can include an external style sheet with the @import directive. Developers don't use the @import directive that much. They never did. One thing about using multiple style sheets and multiple files, period, on a mobile device is that every time we request a new file, that is another trip to the server, and that is page speed involved. All right, that is time consuming on a mobile device. You want to try to keep your style sheets in one file, either external or right on the page in the embedded style sheet. That is the preferred way for mobile devices. All right, other features. There are a lot of other features that can be detected other than the maximum width or minimum width. All right, we can detect things about the color, about aspect ratio, about the device itself, resolution, color, aspect ratio, orientation, monochrome. Do all browsers support media queries? No. Obviously, IE 8 and maybe a few older browsers. What do we do about that? All right, we use what is called a polyfill. A polyfill is some pre-written code, it's usually JavaScript, that provides browser supports. In our HTML, we have the HTML shim and shiv that provides support for browsers that don't support HTML5 elements. All right, well, what we have here is a polyfill for browsers that don't support media queries. Now, that's respond.js, and we can use that in our website as a fallback for older browsers. And this is two ways of writing it. Now remember, if you write something, the browser is going to download it. If you call a file, whether it's a CSS file or a JavaScript file, the browser will download it regardless of whether it needs it or not. So therefore, it's not a bad idea to use conditional comments so that if we need it, it will be called. If not, it won't. And now conditional comments only work for IE. That's just the way they're set up. But that's usually the main problem. All right, so to conclude, in addition to the techniques of coding in a responsive layout, there's also some theory that we need to consider. When you're designing for smaller devices, it forces you to put your focus on content. It forces you to think about what is the most important thing I need to say, because you don't have a lot of room just to make your point, to get the user's attention, to give the user the information or the knowledge of where to go for that information that they came there for. So you want to make sure that you have your goals and objectives identified. You want to make sure that you have a good navigation system somewhere up front so they can find the important things. We will look at hiding what is not necessary. So you might have some things on your websites for your desktop computers that you won't have for your smaller screens because it doesn't really need it. Your important information will always go up first, and here again, this is the mobile first philosophy, meaning that if we design first for the mobile, we will focus on the most important things. The most important things will be up front and foremost, and then as we start developing for the larger devices, we can add information that is good but not the most important later.